Hello, I'm Sudarshana Starshine Star, and I hope this is finding all of you very well on this beautiful Wednesday, August 27th, 2025. I like to begin all of my clips with the three opening prayers that are in Sanskrit and Telugu, and they are short. It's the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra, and I do this to bless, uplift, purify, and protect you, me, and this clip. I also, before I say the prayer, I also would like to just dedicate a moment of silence to the children and the people whose lives were taken today in Minneapolis in a church. Two small children while they were actually in pews praying. So I want to say prayers for all of their souls, for all of their beloveds, and I also want to have a moment of silence for a prayer for the soul of the person who is said to have done this deed. I don't know if that really is the only person involved, but for all involved, for all the victims of this tragedy and all of their family members, God bless all of them. And praying for the redemption and the light and the purification and the blessing for all. And just as I say that, I'm on a partially open outdoor terrace and someone's horn started honking, which I take as a confirmation. So let's have that moment now, if you will. God bless all of them. Thank you. Thank you guys for participating with me in that. So before I begin the prayers, I'm going to command on the sacred blood of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, to flow over all of us and all beings in all worlds, to purify and bless, uplift, protect, sanctify every single thing, every being and every single thing. And I command on the sacred blood of Jesus to do the great divine works of casting out all satanic attachments, all demons, all demonic attachments, cast out the spirit of fear, cast out the spirit of pain, cast out the spirit of ill health, cast out the spirit of negativity and false light. Thank you, Jesus the Christ, dear Yeshua. Please send your healing presence now. Thank you, and please heal all the wounds in our souls. Thank you so much, Jesus the Christ. Yeshua, we thank you and we receive your blessings. Now to the prayers. Om, Om, Om. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmahi Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Suklam Bharataram Vishnum, Sashivarnam Chatubhujam, Prasanvadhanam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashantaye. Om Bhurabhuva Suvah Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I also want to say from my tradition, from ancient India, from Vedic knowledge, that today is called Lord Ganesha Chaturthi. That means the birthday of Sri Ganesha. And if you can visualize like a huge, beautiful elephant in the jungle that's moving ahead of you, just stomping down everything that could be an obstacle for you to walk your path, and leaving a beautifully well-trodden and smooth path for you to follow. Such a blessing is that. So today, this is Ganesha's birthday, but it is going to be celebrated through September 6th. So it's like a huge portal opening, because this is not about religion. It truly is about spirituality. And I believe in this period, we've already seen it since the new moon, the black new moon that we just had. But I think we're going to see just even a quickening of more and more shift and change. So that's wonderful. I had said in the podcast that I just posted yesterday, even though, gosh, I said it took 4 hours. It took really almost 5 hours to post that thing on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called It's the Dazzling of the Light, or just go to YouTube and type in at Sudarshana Starshine Star. I have 260 clips there now, and why not join my YouTube channel? Why not hit the notification bell so you don't miss out? And please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. But I'd said in this, which I'd called Military is Incoming, the biggest sting operation in the world, part 1, because as I was recording that yesterday, I was then giving more information and talking more about some different things. So I didn't want to continue on much longer than that. So I said, geez, I think I have to make a part 2 of this. But the information that I want to share today, I'm not going to call it that. So there won't be a part 2. I think I want to call it, yes, I think I'm going to call it NCSWIS. Nothing can stop what is coming. All right. So what I was describing at some point, and I also want to make a note that yesterday when I was mentioning, I forgot the first name Omar al-Mukhtar. I was talking about the Lion of the Desert, the martyr of Libya. Quite a famous figure. I'm not going to repeat what I said yesterday. And the clip, you can listen to the August 26th podcast that I just mentioned, where I talked about that and the meaning of that. But I couldn't remember the first name, Omar al-Mukhtar, who really is a Lincoln Kaluni, and that's spelled Khallooni, really was the son of President Lincoln, whose actual name was Ibrahim Khalil Kaluni. And his son, William Wallace Lincoln, was sent to Libya at the age of 11. He did not pass away at that age. He was sent to Libya undercover, and he became the man known as Omar al-Mukhtar, who was a great hero in Libya. And you can hear what I said about that yesterday if you'd like. So I just wanted to give that information because I forgot his first name, Omar. I was also talking about, which I'm going to just touch base a bit here now. We'd all seen, there was we've been under a COG, a continuity of government for many years now. And that means we have been under a kind of martial law, even though it hasn't been really known to much of the general population. So people that are protesting and saying, we don't want to be under martial law, we have been for many years. And you can go to official.gov sites and look up the Law of War Manual that we have here in the United States of America, which was amended when? Just a few days before Donald Trump rode down that escalator to announce his candidacy for president the first time around. So it's no accident that just a few days before that, our official Law of War Manual was amended, and it does state the exact steps that need to be taken once it's ascertained that the United States of America has been invaded by enemies, foreign and or domestic, and it was invaded by both. Yeah. So in that case, after proving that, the military really takes over. They really are in charge, and they have been doing military tribunals and carrying out the Earth Alliance, which is also called the White Hat Global Military Alliance, or I like to call it the White Hat Earth Realm Alliance. And that's just the truth. And you can go look back at the photos, you can find them. Zoom in on President Trump's first inauguration. which you've never seen before, when he was surrounded on the steps of the White House by the JAG Corps. Look on their caps. Look at the insignias that they have on their caps. They were all surrounding him. He was CIC, Commander-in-Chief, and they were beginning the operations to clean up the satanic pedivore elites that have been allowed to rule this world in darkness and Satanism and very terrible things for thousands of years. Yes. So that presidential inauguration that was touted as a presidential inauguration of Joseph Robinette Biden on January 20th, 2021 was not that at all. I've spoken about this many times on my YouTube channel. You can go listen to the Real series I have there, or the Controller series. You can scroll down because I don't do playlists, and you can see the titles and listen to your heart's content. I'll just repeat briefly that Joseph Robinette Biden, who is a complete member of the cabal of the satanic, they call themselves elites. They're not elites. They act like scumbags, but they call themselves elites, just like they call us, we the people of this earth realm, useless eaters, cattle, goyim. Their incredible disgust and disdain and hatred and fear of us. Yeah. Joseph Robinette Biden was picked up in November of 2020. Capital crimes were levied against him for treason and crimes against humanity. And crimes against humanity relates directly back to the children, to the labels I just mentioned a few moments before. And he had military tribunal and was found guilty and received capital punishment for those capital crimes. His clone had to be taken care of the same way in December of 2020. Yes, I know it's very amazing and strange world to find out that so many of these figures that are picked up and have military tribunal and receive, most of them, capital punishment, some of them life imprisonment, depends, but they have clones. This has been a world of clones. There are different types of clones. It's not really hard to clone someone using cells in a lab, but clones, there have been robotoids, there have been doubles, a lot of doubles, just, lookalikes. There also have been, on the good guy side, which are called the white hats, over 200,000 white hat actors wearing hyperskin Hollywood face masks with voice box technology. Yeah. So there's a big show going on. And anyway, Joseph Robinette Biden was not around. His clone was taken care of. And you also saw, and subsequently, in 2022, I think it started to pick up a lot of CGI, where they would show, I call him JoJo, showing JoJo, which was just an actor, a double, and a face mask, showing the demarcation line on his neck many times. And many ways, the White Hats were letting everyone know, hey, this is, the 1.0, the original Joseph Robinette Biden is not around. This is whom I call JoJo. Anyway, and President Trump referred many times, how many rallies, how many official platforms and speeches did he refer to Joseph Biden and say, Joe's been shot, he's shot, he doesn't know where he is, Joe's been shot. He told us what happened many times. That was the truth of what happened. But why I'm bringing this up is that because I was referencing what happened when the National Guard was called up, 35,000 troops, supposedly in preparation for that presidential inauguration in D.C. in 2021. But as I said, if you looked at it, they put up the fencing all around D.C. and all around the Capitol, and the National Guard unfurled masses of the huge concertina wire, the huge rolls of barbed wire all on top of the fence. But if you notice, everything was facing inward. It was to keep people inside of that area so they couldn't escape. It was not to protect from beings outside potentially climbing over the fence. And all you have to do is look at that and you can see with your eye. It's common sense. That inauguration day in Washington, D.C., which you can still look up the weather reports for that. It was very overcast, very gloomy, very solidly gray and overcast the entire day. But funnily enough, that inauguration, which really was a film that was recorded by the White Hats, I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second, again, because I've already spoken about it before, but the film, the day, people were looking at it on mass media, on national television, whatever. It was a bright sunny day. Yeah, it was bright sunny Los Angeles, California, sunshine. That's where it had been filmed. And there were many Easter eggs or many tells that the White Hats put in that inauguration. You saw, for example, Jill Biden, her coat was completely changing colors, going on and off in different dresses. Hillary Clinton was shrinking and growing several feet. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a second too. But there were women that were placed in between, for example, when supposedly Joseph Biden was being sworn in with Jill at the swearing in ceremony, and there were women that were standing in between them that were appearing and disappearing. There were all kinds of Easter eggs. That was not the real Lady Gaga that was performing there. Lady Gaga, who's really a biological male named Stephen Gorblecki out of the Midwest, not from New York, not Italian, from New York. And it was owned property of the Disney Corporation, was a very, dark, satanic witch, whatever you want to call that, involved in all the practices, very hideous practices that involve crimes against humanity with children. And that was not actually Lady Gaga singing at that inauguration, wearing like the Mockingjay on those Hunger Games outfits and stuff like that. Those were all Easter eggs. Those were all tells that the White Hats were putting in there to alert people to what was really going on. And I know it was hard to see because no one could imagine that was happening, but the White Hats filmed that at the Culver City's Los Angeles, California studios. There's a White House exact replica there that was made for a Michael Douglas movie with Annette Bening that I forgot the name of it. I think it was could have been in the 80s even, but it was some movie where they needed the White House replica. So that's one of the White House replicas. There's another one that was in Atlanta, Georgia, on Tyler Perry Studios lot. And there's another exact White House replica in Germany. And all were being used by the evils to fake and do all these filmings. And then the White Hats used the Culver City one to fake that there was actually really a President Biden from 2021 on. There was not. His administration, however, his evil administration, was allowed some powers, not that many powers. For example, they never had the football, but they had to do some of their criminal acts again and get caught in the act and do things to be picked up and arrested again, because Obama, whose real name was Barry Hussein, who's born in Kenya and was not black, by the way. His father was Indonesian, and his mother was of all I'm going to say was of German mustache man heritage, connected to the Rothschilds. He was always groomed to be a Manchurian candidate since he was a small boy. And he was very, he was brainwashed in MK Ultra, but he was very evil. And he forgave. He did all those presidential, when you forgive all the criminals and crimes of the criminals right before he left office. So they had to be caught in the act again. And also there had to be some kind of a show, even though it was a brutal show for Americans and for the world. There had to be enough, though. War has misery in it. War has pain. War has death. War has loss. War has a lot of negative things in it, but we've been in a war, and that's just a part of it, and that had to be shown. But the law of war manual was enacted, and the military was operating in charge with President Trump as CIC. So anyway, I forgot. I wanted to mention something about Hillary Clinton during that film of the January 2021 inauguration, where you can see her shrinking and growing by several feet. I believe the White Hats did that because, as I mentioned in a couple of clips before, again, Hillary Clinton's nickname was Alice, as in Alice in Wonderland, as in connected to Saudi Arabia, which was given the name Wonderland because it was one of the huge, there were so many, but it was one of the huge empires of pedophilia and hideous crimes and child sex trafficking and human trafficking on the earth realm. So Hillary Clinton, with the nickname of Alice, yes, growing and shrinking several feet, just like the Alice in Wonderland character. And Also, as I mentioned just in a few clips ago, I brought it up again, the subject that the huge machine that was from the Boring Company, owned by the satanic original Elon Musk 1.0, who's not been around, who isn't around. We're on like Elon Musk 3.0 right now, if not 4.0, played by a very good white hat actor doing very good deeds in the world, working for the good of humanity. But the original satanic dark cult Illuminati bloodline, Elon Musk and his mother, the man called May, they're not around. Terrible, terrible creatures. Yeah, you think Neuralink, chipping people's brains, could ever be something good and positive? No, it was all about the turning us into half, partly human, partly organic, partly inorganic, just chipped, half robotoid, asexual, can't reproduce beings that were just really slaves to the satanic elites and their minions. That's what the Georgia Guidestones were all about, declaring carved in stone that it will be that the 7.8 billion of the earth realm, all the peoples, will be brought down to only 500 million. That's what they were just attempted to do with the thing that happened right before the lockdowns, if you know what I mean. So the Boring Company had these huge machines, the face of which is exactly like, even though it's often blue, is exactly like the yellow sunshiny emblem of Walmart, which shows these, looks like spokes. I think you'll know what the Walmart emblem looks like. That's exactly the face of the boring machine that makes the deep underground tunnels very rapidly, also creates the tunnels very rapidly for the maglevs, the magnetic levitating trains that have been underneath our feet and even run underneath the ocean that normal Gen Pop was not made aware of, but the evils sure utilize them to get like from New York to London in under 30 minutes. And that machine was also called Alice. The boring machine that does that was nicknamed Alice. So just giving you a little bit of that background again. And I don't want to go over the evil history of Walmart. I just did that 2 clips ago again. I brought it up about all their evergreen cargo ships linkage into Hillary Clinton and the child sex trafficking and the crematorium they have on site and all this stuff linked to the China's Belt and Road Initiative stuff with the new Silk Road and all of that. So it's in a couple clips. I'm not going to go over it again right now because I don't need to. And let's see. All right, so here's what I'm going to go. There's this guy named Alex on True Life News on YouTube. I really like him. And this is something that, I was putting together this whole big thing a couple of days ago. And then it's just taken till now to put it out. So this is what I want to share with you guys. He called it breaking. Trump signs new executive orders. National Guard takes next steps. National emergency. And this is him talking. He said, "This is terrifying. So many things have happened today. It is terrifying for the Democrats. And it's only getting better for those that love America first. Trump has just signed a slew of new executive orders that I'm telling you, they're going to knock your socks off. Guys, we got all the receipts today. So much is taking place. One of the biggest ones, guys, is that a new executive order has been signed to establish a specialized army unit coming from the Pentagon that will travel from city to city, addressing crime and reducing the illegal immigrant population. It's official, guys. This is a specialized unit of Army personnel that will be carrying out Trump's policies when it comes to reducing crime across major blue cities, especially the sanctuary cities." And I'm going to interrupt just to say, and then I just recently saw a photograph of a really cool helo, a really cool helicopter with armed forces kind of climbing down, how they climb down the ropes hanging from the helos to get to the ground. And it was saying that there is now also a very specialized unit that will be used that can get anywhere very, very quickly, anywhere in the U.S. that will be functioning, I guess, starting right now to help with crime and also to help if there are any problems with illegals or help with anything. So it's like a really specialized unit that's very fast, very rapid, and very well funded after the big, beautiful bill passed. So there's a lot of good to look forward to in terms of the cleansing, purifying, and scouring of our country here. All right, and then back to Alex. He said, are you ready to see these people with arms drawn in the neighborhoods, cleaning up the streets, reducing the illegal migrant populations? Because it's happening. It's official. The executive order has been signed and is terrifying the Democrats right now because they're losing their extra voter base. Trump has also signed a new order pertaining to the new mid-decade census that is going to count and recount only American citizens. And with this new change, guys, this is insanely huge. This is going to grant new electoral vote counts for the 2028 presidential election, bringing an additional 14 electoral votes over to the GOP side. That is huge, guys. 14 electoral votes will be going with this new executive order that's been signed for the new electoral vote count. Another thing that's been signed, the federal funds are going to be withheld from jurisdictions across the United States for allowing this crime to run rampant, like with the cashless bail. Trump signed an executive order cutting federal funds to states and cities using cashless bail, so pulling more federal funds. He signed an executive order also punishing people who burn the American flag with a 1-year jail sentence. This is what Trump said. If you burn a flag, 1 year in jail, no exits, and it goes on your record. You will see flag burning stop immediately. Holy smokes, guys, that is a big one. 1 year in jail. Do not disrespect the country that gives you the freedom to have freedom of speech and express your views, but that doesn't include flag burning, or you're going to get a year in jail. Another executive order was signed pertaining to delivering on Social Security payments, stronger, faster, and more secure payments to American citizens, only for those receiving Social Security payments. This comes right after finding 300,000 illegals receiving Social Security taxpayer benefits. Trump also has ordered new investigations into all sanctuary cities for the massive cover-up of crime they've partaken in, they've literally called, and this is from Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor. Stephen Miller said they're calling MURDERS and homicides accidents. They cook the books that way, guys. Stephen Miller said full investigation into these mayors, police chiefs will be held accountable for their deceit and manipulation of numbers, lying to their constituents, covering up crime. Guys, this new specialized unit, this Army unit that Trump has just signed, I'm telling you, we're about to see some darn people get arrested. The Democrats are terrified, guys. And again, we found more of the slush fund money. Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce, has found that the Biden administration created a new entity called NetCast. It was a slush fund siphoning $7.4 billion in taxpayer dollars to do what? To give this to illegals. They said that the people were illegal. They were unaccounted for, and they were put into left-wing groups creating fake departments. $7.4 billion has been clawed back, going back to the American taxpayer. Guys, this NetCast slush fund was found by Howard Lutnick. And then there's the New York Post put, the other day, they put the title, says, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick voids illegal $7.4 billion payment to Biden ally, staffed nonprofit for semiconductor research. Yeah. The dopes, they said it was for semiconductor research. And then they funded all these, all this craziness we see in the streets of these paid rioters. They're not protesters, they're paid rioters with a lot of violence. Protesting is very much allowed in our constitutional Republic of America. Peaceful protesting that doesn't mean being violent and doing all the nonsense that these little criminal rugrats, as someone called them, have been doing. Yeah, and getting very well paid for it. Or maybe not very well paid for it, because what they're going to pay for with getting incarcerated and having their freedom taken away by sitting their butts in jail, that doesn't mean, that's not a good reward. Okay, Alex says, you don't want to mess around when Trump's signing these executive orders to literally revolutionize America. We got the fireworks going. Trump signing these executive orders. is what he said. Okay, so I want to end that there because he was saying other things, but that's all I wanted to share from that. And then I want to go to, it's from about a week and a half ago, I think, but I just want to read it to you guys. It was from the National Desk. It was a short with Governor Ron DeSantis is speaking. He said, now we're here to discuss something that both the Attorney General and I are going to be pursuing in conjunction, hopefully, with the Trump administration. And that involves the count of Florida in the most recent census. I think most people know we were undercounted in that census. In fact, I remember when the first Trump administration was leaving office in January of 2021, I spoke with people at the Commerce Department and they said, Florida is going to get 2 additional seats in Congress as a result of that census, which was basically the 2010 through 2020 population growth. Turns out, new administration takes office, we end up getting 1 seat, state of Florida. Oregon got 1, I think Colorado. We got the same as Oregon over that period of time. And even the Biden administration, a couple of years later, said that there was an undercount in Florida, that Florida should have gotten at least 1 more seat in Congress, and that some of these other states, and look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but every state that got shortchanged was a Republican state, and every state that got more was a Democrat state. That's just the truth about how that census was applied. So, you think about it, and I know there's different issues involving the census, even apart from that, but the census was done and it was started under Trump administration, but it was processed and the results were promulgated under Biden. Just with that, if we just take that and applied it properly, Florida would have at least 1 more seat. That's just the truth. So the Attorney General has written a letter to the Census Bureau, the Commerce Department, copying the White House, saying, please fix this remuneration and award Florida what we are entitled to, an extra seat in Congress. And if we get that, that's not only an extra seat in the House of Representatives, we have 28 now, that would also mean an additional vote in the Electoral College when it comes to presidential elections. And so we should have had that in 2024 and 22 for Congress. 24 for both Congress and the Electoral College. And we want this fixed now. We think it's really something that's important. So if that relief is given, then that would obviously force the Florida legislature to have to redraw the maps that we have for the U.S. House of Representatives. My tongue is getting twisted here. Excuse me, listener. That we have for U.S. House of Representatives, because we have 28 districts currently. We would presumably have 29. All right. And then going back to excuse me for just a moment, because I think I just repeated a page. Okay. Going back to what President Trump, when he was talking about the flag burning, when he signed that executive order the other day, he said, and what the penalty is going to be if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail, no early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they incite? Incite to riot. You get 1 year in jail and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately. Just like when I signed the Statue and Monument Act, 10 years in jail if you hurt any of our beautiful monuments. Everybody left town. They were gone. Never had a problem after that. It's pretty amazing. We stopped it. But this is something that, in a certain way, is equally as important. Some people would say it's more important because the people in this country don't want to see our American flag burned and spit on by people that are in many cases paid agitators. They're paid by the radical left to do it. You talk to these people, they don't even know. Half of them don't even know what they're doing. They say, I don't know, they gave me this money to do this. I see the same things that you did. They're bad people. They're trying to destroy our nation. That's not working, because I think our nation now is the most respected nation anywhere in the world by far. You saw that with the European leaders on Friday. You saw that with NATO, where they agreed to go from 2% no pay to 5% fully paid up. Trillions of dollars paid. Where they respect your president to a level that they jokingly call me the president of Europe, which is an honor. I like Europe, and I like those people. They're good people. I say it all the time. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Everybody said it. We had a dead country. We are not going to survive. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So it's an honor to be involved. And this group has a lot to do with me. Right behind me, President Trump was pointing to the people standing behind him in the Oval Office when he said that. And then Alex, again from the True Life channel, says, we're going to have safe cities. We're going to clean up America. We're going to stop all the lawlessness. Trump is doing whatever it takes. It's just beautiful because, again, we've never had a president who says, you know what? We're going to hold people accountable. And if we can't pass it through Congress, I'll sign an executive order to make sure that America's put first. Yeah. And then, you know, give me a second to look this up because this is this came this morning. Let's see here. This was early this morning. Today, Wednesday, August 27th, 2025, President Trump put this on his Truth Social from Donald J. Trump. He said, George Soros and his wonderful radical left should be charged with RICO because of their support of violent protests and much more all throughout the United States of America. We're not going to allow these lunatics to rip apart America anymore, never giving it so much as a chance to breathe. And he put that in all caps with quotation marks around it. He put quote marks, breathe, end quote. And be free, he put free in all caps. Soros and his group of psychopaths have caused great damage to our country. That includes his crazy West Coast friends. Be careful. We're watching you. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah. Be careful. Be careful, evils and your minions, because nothing can stop what is coming. Now, I want to go to this. This woman was so passionate, and I really like that. She's a woman. Her name is Elaine Kalotti, Kallotti, from Los Angeles, California. She's an activist, and she said, I think she's also a developer, but she was so passionate, and she was also very frustrated, but she was speaking, and she said, and she was speaking on, and I can't remember what the name of this network is. It was Steve Bannon speaking here. He was interviewing her. So Steve Bannon is saying this. He's saying, someone that's talked about home rule and this horrible situation with the fires and the Palisades and the governor and everybody's focus down there. Elaine, on the governor's race next year. I read that incredibly wrong. Let me repeat that. The fires and the Palisades, meaning the Pacific Palisades, and the governor, and everybody's focused down there, Elaine, on the governor's race next year. But right now, we do have a bigger race, and that is a throwdown by Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is rolling the dice in a presidential run in 2028 to basically take 5 seats from the Republicans. These are folks that got 40% of the vote or 42% of the vote in California. He wants to take them down to 4 seats in a 52-seat delegation. Walk us through your sense of what Gavin Newsom's doing, and is there going to be a fight back from the MAGA base, from the GOP, from the right in California to... I don't even know what this word is, from the right in California to thwart this in November. And then Elaine Kalotti speaks and she says, hi, thanks for having me on. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that Gavin Newsom was losing. He was losing ground, losing his position losing everywhere. You know that. You've watched it. And the fires came. It sealed the deal. It sealed the deal. It got rid of Gavin Newsom. It was the worst political disaster in history in California. He was done. And when he couldn't extract any more money from the federal government, $1.1 billion, he turned his sights to this redistricting thing, which is essentially a land grab. People don't understand redistricting, de-annexing. Moving maps is what it is. And it's a land grab. Once you grab the land, you grab the people. They imported 15 million immigrants into California. And they imported 15 million immigrants into the California region, and they put them in all different towns, and then they redistrict. They count those heads, and then they get more seats. It's just a scam. We're in the middle of a scam. And then Alex, who was also watching this, said, wow, yeah, it's a pretty big scam. And then Steve Bannon says again, so the Republican Party, there's been a lot of structural things that's made the Republican Party, weak. And you've got this, you have this, you don't really have primaries anymore. So consistently the Republicans, although I think it's 38 to 42% of the state, has been grossly underrepresented in the assembly, in the congressional districts and statewide offices. Just how you're an activist is now coming to that, and it's firing people up. How do people anticipate you're going to fire? Because I understand all that about Newsom, and I know he's not going to run on his policies as governor of California for the presidency. What he's done is gone to the playbook of they're leaderless, and they don't think their leaders are fighting for them. What he's done is tried to mimic President Trump with the memes and with the smack talk, and he's using this 26, the redistricting, to basically propel himself to the front of the Democratic primary as a fighter. So how do you anticipate people in California, given that we don't have a great track record of, you have more MAGA or MAGA, I often say MAGA, but people say MAGA. You have more MAGA in California than any state in the union, but just structural issues and the fact that you haven't had leaders who really want to go to the mat. We haven't won a lot. So how are the grassroots, how are the people like you going to turn this around when, do not underestimate Gavin Newsom. He's a very cunning, a very sly individual who now has the entire media in back of him because they are looking for something to stop President Trump. And the only way they can stop President Trump is to win the House of Representatives in 26 and begin to impeach him. And then here's Elaine speaking. First of all, I want to say Trump is like a mean dog to people here. And if he's not here, he can't be friendly. We can't be around him, and we can't see the evidence of how amazing it is to have conservative policy. And we're out of the conversation. We are out of the conversation completely. There's never a minute that we are involved in anything federally in California. We're completely blocked because of Gavin Newsom's relationship with Donald Trump, and President Trump's home rule idea would save America. Would save California. I've had a close eye on that for a long time, but that's intimidating to the Democrats. They're scared to have any kind of what they want to call martial law when all it is a tough-on-crime act. We have no police officers. We have 8,500 police for like 15 million people. It's insane. You go, you're on hold on 9/11, you're on hold on 911 emergency. And they're like, what is your emergency? We're like, you're our emergency. They don't answer the phone. If Donald Trump was here, if there was some sort of containment of our crime, look, every crime bill that's passed, including Prop 36, they kick it out when it gets to the top level. We have some smash and grab here. You're allowed to steal $1,000 worth of stuff with absolutely zero repercussion. And with our burned down towns, we have people just squatting and sleeping everywhere. And they want to say, no, don't look over here. But it's 100% true. We have people here that can manage that. We can turn the state. But we have to be in the conversation before November. We can't wait till after November. And you know, and I know, there's no support for GOP here. I'm going to the GOP convention over the 4th, 5th, and 6th. There's no money. I'm talking to people that want to run. They don't have any money. They don't have any support because there's no GOP support in California. We need money here in California to support conservative policy. Without backing, they can't do it. And I am one person. I'm one person backing conservative policy. I'm not interested in backing deals with lobbyists so I can buy land. That's the backing that we get here. Land developers and people that are looking to game the system. We need real policymakers and backing for real policymakers in California to turn the state. And we don't have it because we're out of the conversations. If Trump's here now walking through the streets and saying hi, people would shake hands and be so happy. And the conservatives would come out from their homes. Right now they're hiding in their homes. If I wear a MAGA hat, I don't have any friends in California. Needless to say, I see this as what costs all of this. Look around you. There's nothing left to lose. All your houses are gone. All your money is gone. You have no representation. Gavin's not here. And I'm saying in an aside, yeah, true that, because as I'm speaking, not Elaine Colati, but as I've mentioned in previous clips, I knew Gavin Newsom personally, knew him from back in the day when he was just made superintendent of San Francisco. I know him on a personal level and different things, and so what I say, and I really don't care who believes it or not, Gavin Newsom 1.0 is not around. This is a face mask wearing Gavin Newsom and often a CGI Gavin Newsom. It's not the original Gavin Newsom. So anyway, Elaine's saying, you have no representation. Gavin's not here. Karen's not here, meaning Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles. None of them are around. Altadena, it's 19% black. It's wiped out. 2 generations, 3 generations, middle-class Americans lost their homes. They're not talking about that. They're downtown, wiping graffiti off of the wall from people that they brought into the state and saying, oh, look, we're cleaning up LA. I should leave. That's what they're doing. So I really love that Elaine Colati. She's so passionate, but she's so frustrated too. So you guys probably know, but I'm going to read this anyway, which was amazing. On August 25th, 2025, the White House, and I posted it on my other social medias, the White House letter, which was addressed, it was directly from the White House, from President Trump, and it was addressed to Dr. Lisa D. Cook, member, Board of Governors, United States Federal Reserve System, 20th Street and Constitutional Avenue Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20551. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it. It said, Dear Governor Cook, pursuant to my authority under Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, as amended, you are hereby removed from your position on the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, effective immediately. The Federal Reserve Act provides that you may be removed at my discretion for cause. C. 12 U.S.C. Code 242. I have determined that there is sufficient cause to remove you from your position, as set forth in the criminal referral dated 8/15/2025 from Mr. William J. Pulte. I think you say his name Pulte as Pulte. It could be Polt. I'm saying Pulte. Okay. Director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, to Ms. Pamela Bondi, Attorney General of the United States, in parentheses, criminal referral, attached to this letter as Exhibit A. There is sufficient reason to believe you may have made false statements in one or more mortgage agreements. For example, as detailed in the criminal referral, you signed one document attesting that a property in Michigan would be your primary residence for the next year. 2 weeks later, you signed another document for a property in Georgia, stating that it would be your primary residence for the next year. It is inconceivable that you were not aware of your first commitment when making the second. It is impossible that you intended to honor both. So immediate removal from office. And then there's some memes that are so good on this about the Federal Reserve that And I just really have to get this out first, but I have some really good clips coming up going deeper into that, because there are many witnesses that say and give testimony to the fact that the actual Federal Reserve building is not around anymore, that it's actually been totally removed. You know, it was fenced off for many years, and we had some really great, there's a great patriot who goes by the name Nancy Drew, who was always walking around DC filming everything. Yeah, with her flip-flops, flip-flopping along and talking to everyone on the way and showing everything on live streams and giving lie to the stories that the mainstream media was putting out and showing the truth of what was going on in DC, how empty it was, how closed down the buildings were, so many things. So the Federal Reserve, and this is just, you know, there's so much going on, but there is a shadow play here. And I mean like a good shadow play. There's like it's called The Show, or kind of a movie, because too many of Americans just would have a fit because they don't know what's truly been going on. And so they would resist the true cleanup and resist the true scouring of this evil that's been going on that needs to be cleaned out. And they would just not understand when you would say, what do you mean the Federal Reserve building isn't there anymore? So let me continue on with this. There's some memes that are so good that I don't even have to show them to you guys, listeners. I can just read it. There was a great meme that was showing the Titanic, and it said, how to create the Federal Reserve, a quick and easy tutorial. 1, tell everybody that you just built an unsinkable cruise ship. 2, invite those opposed to centralized banking for a cruise. 3, go full throttle into an iceberg field. Yeah. And then there's another meme that also showed the Titanic ship, and it said, did you know Titanic was an inside job? Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidore Straus, who was head of Macy's department stores, and John Astor, the wealthiest man in the world, were all unalived when it sank. By April 1912, all opposition to the Federal Reserve was eliminated. In December 1913, the Federal Reserve came into being in the USA, controlled by the Illuminati cabal bankers. I call them banksters. Now, I just want to mention, and I can't go into it super in depth here, I'm just going to say that there were twin ships built. The cabal, the Illuminati, the, satanic, quote unquote, elites built 2 huge ships. One was Titanic, and one was its sister ship called the Olympic. The Olympic was damaged in the hull. It was the Olympic that was repainted to be the Titanic, and that was the ship that sailed with these, as it was said, with several people were on it, but specifically J.P. Morgan had the evil cabal puppet, because J.P. Morgan wasn't even as wealthy as he was touted to be. When it was really examined, he was, yes, puppeted into the higher on the evil satanic pyramid, robber barons, cabal, Illuminati, banksters, etc. But anyway, J.P. Morgan extended that personal invitation to Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidore Straus, and John Astor. And he said, come on, gentlemen, we're going to have a great talk on this wonderful ship, the Titanic. We'll take a nice cruise, and we'll hammer out the details of you're resisting the formation of the Federal Reserve, or it's the globalist, satanic, evil central banking system. But let's talk it out. I'm going to listen to you. We're going to have a good talk. That was the invitation. After Guggenheim and Strauss and Astor walked up the gangplank and boarded on the ship and everything, at the last minute, there was a telegram from J.P. Morgan. Oh, sorry, gentlemen, I just can't make it. So he didn't get on board. But anyway, that was the Olympic, and it was already damaged in the hull, so it was easy to just ram it into those icebergs to bring it down. And some years later, like this stuff I've shown on my social medias over the years, even though I always get shadow banned and have my socials, removed over and over and over again. I keep putting them back up again. But show the picture of the actual Titanic, the original, unharmed, in the stockyards. Yeah, it was just sitting on I think that's what you call it, the stockyards, where they park the boats and they're in dry dock. Yeah, the whole Titanic was just right there. No, it's at the bottom of the sea. And I've always hated that bloody movie Titanic. I mean, that came out so long ago, but that was back when I used to go to movies all the time in person. And right when that started, I didn't even know why. So I saw Titanic, and even the hideous Celine Dion music. Maybe because now, I know why, because what a satanic man Celine Dion was and is not around anymore. But that music and the whole ridiculous story. And I just hated that movie so much. I always hated it, which was rare for me. Because usually I love history. I love looking at the costuming was beautiful. The sets were beautiful. You could say it was a romantic story. And yes, I like romance, but that whole thing. And I think kind of one of the things that really irked me about that too was when Kate Winslet's character Rose was on that little piece of wood, whatever, that wooden raft, that slice of a raft. And Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Jack, just was slipping off of it. And she just allowed him to like drift down into the depths of the ocean, staring into each other's eyes, making it like, oh yes, Jack has to get off of this wooden raft so I can be saved, and that's his sacrifice. No, there was room for him. And I know, I just hated that. It was like, if anyone that really had a true heart would fight to the end to be like, no, Jack, I'm holding on to you. You're sticking on this with me. Not like, all right, Jack, I accept your sacrifice. I will go on. I will live. Our love will live on in my mind. But your end is here right now. I'm just watching you sink to the bottom of the ocean. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Jack. Yeah, I hated that movie. Anyway, so that was just another stupid cabal. Ooh, there's like a big noisy truck that just went by now. Thank you, truck. That's like a big stupid cabal thing of like brainwashing us into thinking of the Titanic, always with this romance about everything and the tragedy of that and stuff like that. No, that was just a super cold-blooded play. And I already told you about the Olympics. I don't need to repeat that. So I want to go now because I think it's interesting. It's such a great... When I read this book years ago, it was so interesting. It was called The Creature from Jekyll Island by E. Edward Griffin, which explains all about the formation of the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve has never been federal. It's as federal as FedEx. It's never been part of the U.S. government. It's just a satanic, globalized central bank that just prints money out of thin air, and it's such a robbery, pirate, fiat currency nightmare. And it was pushed through without proper... pushed through in the dead of night in December, the day before Christmas Eve in 1913, when everyone had gone home to celebrate the Christmas holidays, and they just pushed it through. Like, oh, surprise, we don't have all the votes and backing that we need, but we just pushed it through, and everyone was away. Everyone was having their holiday dinners and celebrations with their family. Yeah, because the evils are just so sneaky like that. So it's never been it was never properly... created and introduced, and should have never been. So now this dismantling is happening, not only with which will come the more wide-known knowledge that the Federal Reserve Building isn't there anymore, but with this firing of Governor Lisa and all this stuff. It's good stuff, guys. I also went to... Before I do that, though, because I think this is really good, there was another meme. These memes, they're so good I can read them to you. It was showing like kind of a really burned down US $1 bill. And it's a meme that says US dollar purchasing power, 1913 to 2021. In 1913, it shows the Federal Reserve was created, and a dollar equaled a dollar at that time in purchasing power. Then in 1933, there was an executive order 6102 forbidding the, quote, hoarding, end quote, of gold. At about that time, the dollar was worth about 83 cents of purchasing power. And that was such a hideous story that I was never taught in school, but what they called, this great thing of gathering up all the gold from the American people. No, the evils stole all the gold. They even busted in. Let's say you had gold in your safety deposit box. They just busted in all the safety deposit boxes. No permission asked, nothing. Went into all the banks, threw out all your gold, stole it, said you had to line up and turn in all your gold, and that it was for the betterment of the economy. They said they were just going to equalize out the dollar and all kinds of nonsense. And they just stole all the gold from all the people to help us get into this just paper-backed, fiat currency that's backed by nothing, a promissory note that you can't redeem for any gold. It's just worthless and worth nothing. and it's a debt mechanism. The more it was created with debt. Then when you use it, you go into debt you can't get out of in the United States. So then in 1944, there was the Bretton Woods Agreement signed, and that supposedly ended in 1971, the Bretton Woods system, but I don't think it ever really ended. But in the Bretton Woods Agreement was also known as the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference. And you should know that the United Nations has always been satanic. It's always been evil on donated money by Rockefeller. Just always about starting the New World Order, we're the only one religion, which is Satanism, one government, which is a globalist, Illuminati, cabal, devil government that rules over everyone, and we're all just chipped, asexual slaves, not capable of reproduction, and just 500 million of us. And it's always been that. It's never been like a peacemaking faction. That's just the story. They've always had in the United Nations in New York, in its headquarters, in their meditation room, not only the huge black rock, directly related to BlackRock, if you know what that financial institution is, and also related to the black cube worship, like you see on the Khazaria Mafia, also known as the fake JEWSs, who strap that cube to their forehead with black bands and wrap black bands around their arm, which is related to the Satanic Talmud, not to the Hebrew Torah. But most people don't even bother looking into that. I have many actual Hebrew friends that didn't even know that. That's purely satanic. It was all infiltrated, just like the black cube in Mecca. Just like if you live in Manhattan and you see, which I have and do, huge black cube sticking out in Midtown. Like, what is that? Big statue. It's black cube worship, which is the evil's worship of the cube that is found on the top of the planet Saturn. Saturn has the highest potential for positive and also negative, but the evils have harvested the negative there, and they put a ring around it. That's the ring of Saturn, to control that consciousness there, to really stymie the good that could come out of it. And that's also directly related to those J.R. Tolkien stories, like a Lord of the Rings. What are the rings? The rings mean the ring around Saturn, the rings that are controlling the consciousness and really hurting humanity and other beings, to just make more darkness much easier to access and to increase. So anyway, the United Nations, thumbs down on that. So the Bretton Woods conference was held at the Mount Washington Hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, in July 1944, and it established a monetary system that led to the creation of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, another hideous dark cult thing that's so bad, and the World Bank. There you go, the globalist banksters, World Bank. And they told the lie that it was created to create stable international economic order after World War II. They always give their fake stories of why they're doing things, stealing our freedom, stealing all of our money, stealing our children, stealing property, stealing everything. All right, and then in 1971, Nixon closes the gold window and he puts us on the petrodollar, that fiat currency. At that time, in 1971, the US dollar only had 30 cents of purchasing power. And voila, we go to the last date of this little meme here, 2022, when the current purchasing power of the US dollar in 2022 was 3 cents. 3 glorious pennies. So, the last meme I'm going to read related to this, it was so good. It was showing the satanic pyramid that we have on our $1 bill with the capstone floating above it with the one eye, the eye of Satan, in it. And it was showing like Powell, Jerome Powell in the forefront with some other Illuminati cabal little nightmares on a table laughing with all the money all around with the Federal Reserve. And it's the meme said, some call them the deep state, others call them the Illuminati. Scripture calls them powers and principalities, and that's from Ephesians 6:12. Let's see. I have something really cool that I'm going to go into in a minute about that, directly related to the creature from Jekyll Island. But before I do that, I just want to give these little updates just to make sure you guys know about this. President Trump just signed an executive order to make it a capital crime in the Capitol, in Washington, D.C., that if anyone unalives anyone in the Capitol, that's a capital crime. That means a death sentence. Okay? Yes, that's what is just happening. And in the clip I just did yesterday, I said I was going to talk more about the announcement from Attorney General Pam Bondi when she was speaking about the great victory of having the Sinaloa cartel boss El Mayo Zambada, who pleaded guilty in court in New York the other day. And U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and law enforcement officials addressed the media after Sinaloa cartel co-founder Ishmael El Mayo Zambada pleads guilty in a New York court. This major case marks a turning point in the fight against organized crime and drug trafficking, and he was doing really evil and hideous crime for over 3 decades. He was the compadre, like the brother, I don't mean real brother, but just like the buddy of the hideous cartel leader called El Chapo, who was, picked up a few years ago. He's already been moldering in jail for a few years. And then a side note was really great that the Coast Guard announced the largest drug offload in history. Nearly $500 million of cocaine and marijuana were offloaded at Port Everglades in Florida on Monday. The U.S. Coast Guard announced making the largest drug offload in history. Officials said that crews offloaded 61,740 pounds of cocaine and 14,400 pounds of marijuana after a 2-month operation at sea. Many of the vessels carrying the drugs were from Venezuela. U.S. Attorney Gregory Kehoe said at a news conference, "This is a haven for Tren de Aragua and Cartel de los Soles, organized crime gangs in Venezuela." Kehoe told reporters these are foreign terrorist organizations responsible for bringing drugs and violence to the United States, and they are a threat to our national security on a daily basis. Yep. I also said that I was, in this clip I did yesterday, I said I was going to mention today, so I am doing it, mention more on about President Trump's administration taking action directly related to that the tragic, hideous deeds of the Indian, the Sikh, the illegal, who was driving a big rig in Florida. It's been about a week now, on a fake commercial. He got a commercial driver's license in Washington State and California, and he took it down to Florida. And I'm sure many of you have seen that. It was the most. It's hard to watch it though. It's showing in the mirrors. It's showing him in the rig, taking an illegal U-turn, blocking the entire highway. And as he did it, it shows because he's looking right in his rear view, and you can see it. They kind of fuzz it out. A car with a family of 3, 2 parents and a child, slammed right into that because he blocked the entire highway. And they were killed instantly. And he has no expression on his face. He looks at that like a fly buzzing to his window, like, oh, look, that happened. He has absolutely no expression, even when he was pulled out of the cab of the rig and arrested and everything. And he's kind of like, what are you doing? Let me get back to my job attitude. I've got something to do. I got to drive this truck. Even though he was only speaking a few words of English. He could not speak English. He could not read English. Anyway, so President Trump did something really amazing about that. And I'm going to, something more about that because things were already happening with this in May. I'm going to read this from the U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. He said, "I'm taking a moment to thank President Trump for his leadership in the executive order that he made clear that we're going to put safety in America first on our roadways. It was in May that the DOT, Department of Transportation, put out a rule that indicated that we were going to take out of service truck drivers who were not proficient in speaking the English language. We announced that in May, and it was going to go in. It did go into effect at the end of June. Now, when we did that, there was a lot of press that complained to us that we were being unfair to people, that we were being mean to people. And what we said was, no, this is a safety issue. Making sure drivers of very heavy 80,000-pound rigs can speak the language is truly a critical safety issue. And some complained about it. We implemented it at the end of June, and all of us in America saw what happened in Florida, where we had an individual who, we tested this individual after the crash. No doubt he could not speak the English language, and he could not understand road signs when he was operating that very deadly rig. And his name was, his name was Harjinder Singh. But anyway, let me go on with this. So, Sean Duffy speaking. And so we at DOT, Department of Transportation, and federal motor carriers, we are not going to tolerate states that don't comply with the rules that come from this department. And so we are going to, we've identified several states that have not been in compliance. That would be Washington, California, and New Mexico. These are the 3 states that have not complied with this rule, which, by the way, this driver in Florida had received a commercial driver's license in Washington, California, and was pulled over in July for speeding, and no doubt couldn't speak the English language. And law enforcement in New Mexico did not take his rig out of service. So this one driver, Harjinder Singh, touched all 3 states. Based on our review, they are not complying with our rule. And so phase 1 for us, which I'm announcing today, is we're going to give these states 30 days to come into compliance with truck drivers speaking proficiently the English language, or we're going to look at federal funding that they receive under the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. So I believe California is 20 million or 30 million, Washington is 10 million, and New Mexico is 7 million. Jesse will confirm that in a second. But these are millions of dollars. By the way, this is phase 1. There are other actions that we can take to make sure states comply, and hopefully in the next 30 days, we won't have to withhold any money from them. But if they don't come into compliance, we will start with withholding this money, and then we will take additional steps to guarantee compliance. This is about keeping people safe on the road, your families, your kids, your spouses, your loved ones, your friends. We all use the roadway. And as I said that there was a honking, I'm sure you heard that from outside, which I take as a positive thumbs up. Yes, we all use the roadway. And he said, note, in the end of that speech, he said, note, there are other tools that will make it very challenging for the states to do business if they don't comply. And President Trump had also made, after that happened, which has been several days now, he also made an executive order that from now on, all commercial trucks, all those big rigs, can only be driven by truck drivers who are American, who are born in America. Nobody else. You have to be born in America. And I say, good, that will help. Then I have, let's see. Excuse me, I'm going back and forth because I was inserting some different things earlier today that I wanted to tell you guys. And if I can't find it in a second, then I just will not give it to you guys. Okay, so then I'm going to read this from Marco Rubio before I go back to something really good about the Federal Reserve and the Jekyll from Creature Island, or the creature from Jekyll Island, which is in Georgia. All right, well, I am laughing because I super can't find it. All right, I'll read it later. This is what I want to give you guys that I think is so amazing. This book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, by G. Edward Griffin, that I read several years ago, and I really always recommend it to people because it's so good. It really is. And you can get it. I really advise you guys getting it, either purchasing the physical book or You can get it on Amazon or even getting the PDF or however you want to get it. So to give a little bit of incentive about that, because it's so good, I'm going to read this to you guys. The Creature from Jekyll Island, Section 1. What creature is this? What is the Federal Reserve System? The answer may surprise you. It is not federal, and there are no reserves. Furthermore, the Federal Reserve banks are not even banks. The key to this riddle is to be found not at the beginning of the story, but in the middle. The subject matter is not a curriculum to be mastered, but a mystery to be solved. So let us start where the action is. Chapter 1. The Journey to Jekyll Island. The secret meeting on Jekyll Island in Georgia, at which the Federal Reserve was conceived, the birth of a banking cartel, to protect its members from competition, the strategy of how to convince Congress and the public that this cartel was an agency of the United States government. New Jersey railway station was bitterly cold that night. Flurries of the year's first snow swirled around streetlights. November wind rattled roof panels above the track shed and gave a long, mournful sound among the rafters. It was approaching 10 p.m., and the station was nearly empty except for a few passengers scurrying to board the last southbound of the day. The rail equipment was typical for that year of 1910, mostly chair cars that converted into sleepers with cramped upper and lower berths. For those with limited funds, coach cars were coupled to the front. They would take the brunt of the engine's noise and smoke that somehow always managed to seep through unseen cracks. A dining car was placed between the sections as a subtle barrier between the two classes of travelers. By today's standards, the environment was drab. Chairs and mattresses were hard. Surfaces were metal or scarred wood. Colors were dark green and gray. In their hurry to board the train and escape the chill of the wind, few passengers noticed the activity at the far end of the platform. At a gate seldom used at this hour of the night was a spectacular sight. Nudged against the end rail bumper was a long car that caused those few who saw it to stop and stare. Its gleaming black paint was accented with polished brass handrails, knobs, frames, and filigrees. The shades were drawn, but through the open door one could see mahogany paneling, velvet drapes, plush armchairs, and a well-stocked bar. Porters with white serving coats were busying themselves with routine chores, and there was the distinct aroma of expensive cigars. Other cars in the station bore numbers on each end to distinguish them from their dull brothers. But numbers were not needed for this beauty. On the center of each side was a small plaque bearing but a single word: Aldrich. The name of Nelson Aldrich, senator from Rhode Island, was well known even in New Jersey. By 1910, he was one of the most powerful men in Washington, D.C., and his private railway car often was seen at the New York and New Jersey rail terminals during frequent trips to Wall Street. Aldrich was far more than a senator. He was considered to be the political spokesman for big business. As an investment associate of J.P. Morgan, he had extensive holdings in banking, manufacturing, and public utilities. His son-in-law was John D. Rockefeller, Jr. 60 years later, his grandson, Nelson Aldrich Rockefeller, would become Vice President of the United States. When Aldrich arrived at the station, there was no doubt he was the commander of the private car. Wearing a long fur-collared coat, a silk top hat, and carrying a silver-tipped walking stick, he strode briskly down the platform with his private secretary, Shelton, and a cluster of porters behind them, hauling assorted trunks and cases. No sooner had the senator boarded his car when several more passengers arrived with similar collections of luggage. The last man appeared just moments before the final "all aboard." He was carrying a shotgun case. While Aldrich was easily recognized by most of the travelers who saw him stride through the station, the other faces were not familiar. These strangers had been instructed to arrive separately, to avoid reporters, and should they meet inside the station, to pretend they did not know each other. After boarding the train, they had been told to use first names only, as to not reveal each other's identity. As a result of these precautions, not even the private car porters and servants knew the names of these guests. Back at the main gate, there was a double blast from the engine's whistle. Suddenly, the gentle sensation of motion, the excitement of a journey begun. But no sooner had the train cleared the platform when it shuddered to a stop. Then, to everyone's surprise, it reversed direction and began moving toward the station again. Had they forgotten something? Was there a problem with the engine? A sudden lurch and the slam of couplers gave the answer. They had picked up another car. They had picked up another car at the end of the train. Possibly the mail car? In an instant, the forward motion was resumed, and all thoughts returned to the trip ahead and to the minimal comforts of the accommodations. And so, as the passengers drifted off to sleep that night, to the rhythmic clicking of steel wheels against rail, little did they dream that riding in the car at the end of their train were 7 men who represented an estimated 1/4 of the total wealth of the entire world. This was the roster of the Aldrich car that night. Number 1, Nelson W. Aldrich, Republican, Whip in the Senate, Chairman of the National Monetary Commission Business, Associate of J.P. Morgan, father-in-law to John D. Rockefeller Jr. Number 2, Abraham Piatt Andrew, Assistant Secretary of the United States Treasury. Number 3, Frank A. Vanderlip, President of the National City Bank of New York, the most powerful of the banks at that time, representing William Rockefeller, and the international investment banking house of Kuhn, Loeb and Company. Number 4, Henry P. Davison, Senior Partner of the J.P. Morgan Company. Number 5, Charles D. Norton, President of J.P. Morgan's First National Bank of New York. Number 6, Benjamin Strong, head of J.P. Morgan's Bankers Trust Company. And number 7, Paul M. Warburg, a partner to Kuhn, Loeb and Company, a representative of the Rothschild banking dynasty in England and France, and brother to Max Warburg, who was head of the Warburg Banking Consortium in Germany and the Netherlands. Guys, get that book. It's so good. I love it. I'm even going to reread it after I kind of sparked my own interest in it by writing this. I'm going to reread it. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. And why not join my YouTube channel? It's free. Why not? I end all of my clips with a closing prayer in Sanskrit and Telugu, and what I'm saying is, God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, peace, peace, peace. God bless you and yours. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. I'll see you when I see you. And bye-bye for now.